The Kansas countryside rolled past in shades of gold and rust, the early October sunlight spilling through the windshield of Traviskelce's old truck. The radio played low, some country ballad about love and second chances, but neither brother paid it much attention. Travis's hands gripped the steering wheel a little too tightly. Every few miles he'd glance at Jason sitting in the passenger seat, the same way he'd done 1,000 times growing up, back when their biggest concern was making it home before curfew. But today wasn't one of those carefree drives. "Where exactly are we going?" Jason asked, adjusting his baseball cap and squinting out at the open fields. "Fishing," Travis said quickly. "There's this spot about 40 minutes out. Heard it's perfect this time of year." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Fishing, huh? You, me, and total silence? Something tells me this isn't about catching bass." Travis forced a small laugh, but it came out strained. Can't a man just want some peace and quiet? Not when his fiancée is Taylor Swift and his calendar looks like the Super Bowl parade schedule. Jason shot back with a smirk. "You've been weird for weeks, Trav. Kylie even asked me if you two were having problems." Travis shook his head. "We're fine. Better than fine." "Then why," Jason said, leaning back, "do you look like you're driving to your own execution?" Travis didn't answer. He just turned onto a dirt road that cut through the trees, the sound of gravel crunching beneath the tires. Ahead lay a private lake surrounded by autumn fire, crimson maples and golden oaks reflected in still water. He'd borrowed the property from one of Patrick Mahomes's friends, making sure no one else would be there. No distractions. No witnesses. Just the two Kelce brothers and whatever truth Travis had been holding back. When they parked and unloaded their gear, the air smelled of pine and distant smoke. They baited their hooks and cast their lines. For nearly an hour, nothing was said, just the rhythmic splash of lures hitting the water and the faint hum of wind through the trees. Jason caught 2 fish. Travis caught none. His line drifted, forgotten, while his mind spun miles away. Finally, Jason broke the silence. "All right," he said, setting down his rod. "I can't take it anymore. What's going on with you?" Travis took a slow breath and reached into the cooler. But instead of sandwiches or beer, he pulled out a small wooden box, its surface worn smooth, the Kelce family name carved into the lid. Jason frowned. "Is that Grandpa's box?" "Yeah," Travis said quietly. "Mom gave it to me last week." He opened it carefully, pulling out an envelope with Jason's name written across it in their grandfather's familiar handwriting. Jason took it, his fingers trembling slightly as he unfolded the letter inside. The words were simple, but they landed like a prayer. "Jason, this is my brother Tommy. He was my best man when I married your grandmother. He stood beside me on the most important day of my life. He died in Vietnam 6 months later. Brothers are the family we're given, and the friends we choose to keep. Don't take that for granted. Be there for each other when it matters. Love, Grandpa Joe." Jason's throat tightened. He looked up, eyes glistening, to find Travis watching him. Then Travis reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a silver tie clip engraved with 2 simple words. "Best man." "Jason," Travis said, voice unsteady. "Will you be my best man? Will you stand beside me when I marry Taylor?" For a moment, Jason just stared. Then his grin broke wide across his face. "Are you kidding me?" "Of course I will." He stood and pulled Travis into a fierce hug, the kind only brothers could share, loud, clumsy, and full of unspoken love. But when they stepped back, Jason noticed something. Travis wasn't smiling. His jaw was tight again. His eyes carried that same anxious weight. "There's more," Travis said finally. "There's a condition." Jason's expression shifted instantly. He knew that tone, half hesitant, half trembling. It wasn't just a favor coming. It was a confession. "What kind of condition?" he asked, easing back down onto the edge of the dock. Travis stared at the lake for a long time before answering. The reflection of sunlight rippled over his face like moving glass. "I need you to tell a story in your best man speech," he said finally. "A story nobody else knows." "Not even Taylor," Jason frowned. "What story?" "The real story," Travis said softly, "about what happened senior year. The night I crashed my car. The world seemed to pause. A crow cawed somewhere in the distance, the only sound breaking the silence. Jason felt something inside him freeze. They hadn't spoken about that night in 15 years. The official story, the one everyone believed, was that Travis had been driving too fast after a football game, that the rain-slick road had sent his truck spinning into a tree. He'd been lucky, people said. A miracle he survived. But Jason knew the truth, and the truth was much darker. Travis. Jason's voice was low, steady, but his chest felt tight. We agreed that night was buried. Done. I can't marry her with this secret between us, Travis said, his voice breaking. I love her too much to start our life with a lie this big. It's not a lie, Jason shot back. It's private. It's personal. Nobody needs to know. Travis turned to face him then, his eyes raw with pain. It's the defining moment of my life. And she deserves to know that the man she's marrying once tried to kill himself when he was 17 because he thought he was worthless and no one would miss him. The words hit Jason like a physical blow. For a long moment he couldn't breathe. The memory came flooding back. The phone call in the middle of the night. The blinding hospital lights, Travis's face pale and bruised, the sound of the monitors beeping in fragile rhythm. He remembered sitting beside his little brother for hours, holding his hand, whispering reasons to stay alive until Travis finally fell asleep. Now, all those ghosts had come roaring back to life. You saved my life that night, Travis whispered, tears streaming down his face. Not just because you came to the hospital. You saved me because you made me believe I mattered. You made me promise to stay alive. And you were right, everything got better. But I can't stand at that altar and promise Taylor my life when she doesn't know that I almost didn't have one to give. Jason rubbed his face, his own eyes wet. Why does it have to be me who tells her? Why can't you just tell her yourself? I've tried, Travis admitted. So many times. I write it down and rip it up. I start to talk and freeze. Every time I look at her, I see how much she loves me. And I get scared. Scared she'll look at me differently if she knows how broken I was. Jason's voice softened. That's not how love works, Trav. That's not how Taylor works. I know that, Travis said quietly. In my head, I know. But my heart doesn't. I need you to tell her. For me. In front of everyone. Not to humiliate me, but to set me free. Because if the person who's known me my whole life tells it, maybe I'll finally believe I'm worth loving despite it. Jason stared out at the water again. The surface shimmered with reflected fire from the autumn trees, calm and unbroken. But beneath that surface, he knew, were deep, unseen currents, just like this conversation. You're asking me to stand in front of hundreds of people, he said slowly, and tell them that my little brother once tried to end his life. I'm asking you to tell the truth, Travis replied. Tell them I was lost. Tell them you didn't give up on me. Tell them I fought my way back. And maybe, just maybe, someone out there who's hurting will realize they can too. Jason swallowed hard. He could see how much it meant to him. This wasn't a whim or a burst of emotion. This was something Travis had carried for years, like a stone in his chest. Trav, he said finally, is this really about helping someone else? Or are you punishing yourself again? Travis hesitated, his gaze distant. Maybe it's both, he admitted. But my therapist, Dr. Chen, she's been helping me work through this for years. She told me reclaiming my story could be healing, that telling it on my own terms might finally set me free. He looked back at Jason, his eyes full of quiet resolve. I'm not doing this to hurt myself. I'm doing it to stop hiding. Jason didn't answer. He just nodded slowly, letting the silence stretch between them, filled with wind and memory. For a long time, neither brother spoke. The water lapped softly against the dock, the sound of ripples mixing with distant birdsong. Jason sat with his elbows on his knees, staring down at his reflection as if the answer might rise from the lake itself. He understood what Travis was asking, more than words could express. This wasn't just a favor. It was a request to tear open a wound in front of the entire world and somehow make it beautiful. I need time to think, Jason said at last. His voice was quiet, almost breaking. "This isn't just about you, Trav. It's about Taylor, Mom, everyone. Once this is out there, it's out forever." "I know," Travis said softly, "and I'll respect whatever you decide. But I can't move forward until I know." They packed up their rods and tackle boxes in silence. As they drove back, the late afternoon sun dipped low, setting the trees ablaze with gold. Jason kept glancing at his brother, at the way Travis's hands trembled slightly on the wheel, at the quiet courage in his expression. When they reached Jason's house, his daughters were outside, raking leaves into uneven piles and jumping into them, shrieking with laughter. Wyatt spotted the truck first and came running. "Uncle Travis!" she shouted. "Did you catch anything?" Jason smiled. "2 fish. Your uncle was too busy being dramatic to actually fish." Travis chuckled, ruffling Wyatt's hair before pulling Jason aside. "I know I'm asking a lot," he said quietly, "but you're the only one who knows the whole story." "The only one who can tell it right," Jason's heart tightened. He hugged his brother tightly, his voice rough with emotion. "Let me talk to Kylie," he said. "No promises. But whatever I decide, just know. I'm proud of you, Trav. Proud of how far you've come. And I love you, man." Travis swallowed hard. "I love you too." Over the next 3 weeks, Jason wrestled with the decision. At night, he'd sit in the living room long after Kylie had gone to bed, turning the tie clip over in his hands, hearing his brother's words echoing in his mind. He talked to Kylie first. She listened quietly, then said something that stayed with him. "It's his story to tell. Maybe asking you to help him isn't a burden. It's his way of healing." Later, Jason called their mother. Donna's voice was steady but full of weight. "He's been thinking about this for a long time," she said, "and he's strong enough now to face it. The question is, are you?" Jason didn't know the answer. Then one afternoon, Taylor called. Her voice was soft but uneasy. "Hey, Jason, can we meet for coffee?" When they sat down at a quiet cafe near the stadium, Taylor looked nervous, twisting her engagement ring unconsciously. "Travis told me he asked you to be his best man," she said. "I'm so happy about that, but there's something else, isn't there? He's been distant lately. Keeps almost telling me something, then stops." Jason hesitated. He'd promised not to reveal specifics, but he could tell the truth without telling everything. "Taylor," he said carefully, "my brother's been through some really hard things that shaped who he is. He wants to be completely honest with you about all of it. Because he loves you that much, just be patient with him." Taylor's eyes glistened. "Is it bad?" Jason smiled faintly. "It's real. It's heavy. But it's proof of how strong he is. The man you love now, he's who he is because he survived what he went through. It didn't break him." Taylor reached across the table and took his hand. "Thank you," she whispered, "for loving him the way you do, for being there all these years. He's lucky to have you." In that moment, Jason knew his answer. 2 days later, he showed up at Travis's house. His brother opened the door, eyes full of quiet hope. "I'll do it," Jason said. "I'll tell the story. But on one condition, you tell Taylor first, before the wedding. Before I write the speech, she deserves to hear it from you in private. Once she knows, then I'll share it publicly." Travis's shoulders sagged with relief. His voice cracked when he said, "Thank you. You don't know what this means." "I think I do," Jason said, smiling faintly. "And when I tell the story, I'm not just going to talk about the hard part. I'm going to tell everyone what came after. The strength, the healing, the life you built. Because you're not defined by that night, Trav. You're defined by what you did after." Travis nodded, eyes shining. "That's all I've ever wanted." 3 days later, the Kansas sky stretched wide and cloudless above them, a soft, perfect blue that carried the warmth of early spring. Travis had chosen a quiet spot outside the city, a little hill overlooking a meadow where he and Taylor often went to escape the noise of their lives. It was where he'd first told her he loved her. Now, it was where he planned to tell her the hardest truth of all. They spread a blanket beneath the oak tree that had seen countless sunsets together. Taylor wore one of his hoodies, oversized and soft, her hair pulled back, her face open and kind as always. But when she looked at him, she could tell something was coming. "Trav," she said gently. "You've been a million miles away lately. Whatever it is, you can tell me." He nodded, his hands trembling slightly as he reached for hers. "You deserve the whole truth before we get married," he said, his voice shaking. "There's something I've never told anyone except Jason and my mom. It's about the night I crashed my car when I was 17. Taylor's brow furrowed, but she said nothing. She only squeezed his hand. "I told everyone it was an accident," Travis continued, "that I was driving too fast. But it wasn't. I aimed for that tree on purpose." His voice cracked, the words heavy with years of silence. "I was drowning back then. Pressure, expectations, loneliness. I thought nobody would care if I was gone. So I decided to make sure they didn't have to." Tears welled in Taylor's eyes, but she didn't interrupt. She simply listened. Really listened the way she always had. "When Jason got to the hospital," Travis said softly, "he didn't yell. He didn't judge. He just sat there all night listing every reason I mattered. I don't remember much from that night, but I remember him saying, 'You're not done yet.' That stuck. It's why I'm still here." Taylor's tears spilled over then. She reached up, touching his face as if grounding him in the present. "You've carried that alone for so long," she whispered. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I was scared," he admitted. "Scared you'd see me differently. That you'd think I'm broken." Taylor shook her head, her eyes fierce with love. "Travis, that's not broken. That's human. That's brave. What you went through doesn't make me love you less. It makes me understand you more." He exhaled a long, trembling breath. It was the first time he'd ever said it all out loud without hiding behind jokes or distractions. The weight he'd carried for half his life finally began to lift. Taylor leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his. "You survived something most people never talk about," she said quietly. "That doesn't make you weak. It makes you extraordinary. And I'm honored to marry every part of you, even the parts that once hurt." Travis broke down then, truly cried, and Taylor held him the way Jason had all those years ago, steady, unwavering, patient. When the sun began to dip, they sat in silence watching the sky blush pink and gold. For the first time in years, Travis felt free. He'd told the truth, and the world hadn't ended. Instead, it had become more beautiful. That night, he called Jason. "I told her," he said simply. Jason's voice cracked with emotion. "How'd it go?" "She cried, I cried. But she still wants to marry me." Jason laughed through tears. "Of course she does, you idiot. She loves you." Travis smiled, looking out at the stars beginning to pierce the dusk. "Then I guess it's time you start writing that speech." The day of the wedding dawned warm and golden, a June morning so perfect it felt like the world itself was holding its breath. The ceremony took place in the garden behind Travis and Taylor's home, the same place where he'd proposed months earlier under a canopy of string lights and roses. Now, those same lights glowed faintly against the afternoon sun. Rows of white chairs lined the grass, every seat filled with family, teammates, friends, and a scattering of celebrities who had come not for spectacle, but for love. Taylor stood radiant in lace and light, her eyes shimmering with quiet joy as she walked down the aisle. Travis waited at the altar, tears already gathering before she even reached him. When their hands met, it felt like the world stilled. By the time Jason rose to give his best man speech, the sky had turned the color of honey. The crowd fell silent as he stepped up to the microphone, holding a small folded paper, but everyone could tell he didn't plan to read from it. He looked at his brother first, then at Taylor, and finally at the faces before him. "When Travis asked me to be his best man," Jason began, his voice steady but thick with emotion, "he also asked me to do something harder than I've ever had to do. He asked me to tell the truth." The audience shifted. A few confused glances. Taylor reached out subtly and touched Travis's hand. Jason took a breath. Most people know Travis as the fun one, the loud one, the life of every room he walks into. But there's a part of his story that almost no one knows, a night when he wasn't sure he wanted to keep living. "You could have heard a pin drop," Jason continued, his voice breaking just slightly. When Travis was 17, he got lost in his own darkness. He thought the world would be better off without him. He crashed his car that night not by accident but by choice.